Alrighty, have you ever wondered how people cut holes in their hood to closely follow the outline of like a supercharger or a turbo or a hood exit exhaust, or I don't know, a radiator sticking up, an engine, an air cleaner, that kind of stuff? You see pictures of cars online all the time of pretty tight sheet metal cuts around like a supercharger like this. So this car has a J30 Honda V6, and this is a Civic, and it has an M90 supercharger from a Pontiac Grand Prix GTP from like '06. So it's a Gen 5 supercharger. So the original swap didn't have a supercharger on it, so it had the wide J-Series intake, and I cut a really big hole in the hood. And this hood, as you can see, well, maybe you can't see, but it looked like somebody had a dance party on it or something. So it was really rough. I didn't really care that much. I kept the pieces that I cut out. I did weld those back in just for the purposes of this. And basically I had some cuts that were kind of close-ish, but it wasn't gonna look good. Like, it's kind of cool because it looks a little Frankensteinish, I guess, but I wanted to have a nice clean cutout for the supercharger. And the way that I'm gonna do that is since I have this sacrificial hood that's junk anyways, I'm going to, what I did is I put the hood on the car, and then I used tape to make the outline, a lot closer to where the air filter and the supercharger pulley and everything is. So this is going to be much closer than I otherwise could have gotten it if I was just like taking measurements and trying to cut the hood. So if you have an old hood like this is the best way that I came up with, which I'm sure other people have other ideas and better ideas. Leave those down in the comments and educate me on how to do this better if you so choose. Okay, so I've got it on there. I've got all the gaps taped up the way that I want them, and I'm going to need a way to transfer this to my new hood, which is over there in the corner. So I'm going to show you the steps to making that happen. The next step is to tape a sheet of paper onto the hood that's got a rough cutout of what you're trying to do, onto the sacrificial hood, we'll call this one. And so this particular one was real rough, so what I did is matched up the middle of the paper, which is this mark here, to the middle of the hood, which is that mark there. And then matched up the middle of the paper to the middle of the hood here, and then outlined it with a Sharpie. You can see I've got a line all the way around it. So I can not only put this piece of paper back on this hood or a similar hood in the exact same spot, but I can also go back and measure distances to make sure it's in the same spot. So now that I've got it on there, I've marked the outline of the tape and cardboard that I've got on the bottom side. So the next step is I'm going to cut that out, and we'll see how that turns out. Well, there's no going back now. So I took the angle grinder and the small Dremel and hacked that fine piece out of there. I think I can round some of the corners a little bit. I think the hole's going to need to get a little bigger, so I think I'll have some opportunity to tweak it here. I need to cut out the structure from underneath, and I'll be back with you in a minute. Here is the semi-finished product. I do have just some poorly applied primer on the hood right now, but you can see how my cutout turned out. You can see it is pretty tight there. There's a view from the top. It actually turned out pretty good. To cut it out, I just had lines drawn on there with Sharpie, as you saw, and I made all the long cuts with the angle grinder. So right there, the angle grinder. And then for some of the finer cuts, like around here and stuff, I used the Dremel with one of those small, like I don't know what are they, 1.5-inch cutoff wheels on it. And you can get some pretty fine details using that. This curved part here, I cut with this, I don't know if that's a 3 or 2.5-inch hole saw to clear the bypass valve actuator. And that's about all I used. Used the drill with the hole saw. Those are the tools I used to make the cutout in this hood. So you don't need anything fancy. You just need to do some planning, and it can turn out pretty good. So there you have it.